Angie Rupert, founder of Rupert Law. We handle exclusively E-2 and E-1 visas. So no matter what treaty country you're from or in what state you want to be, we can help. Before we begin, as always, take a moment to like and subscribe. And of course, if you find these videos useful, and we hope that you do, you share with a friend or family member who may also be interested in the E-2 or E-1 visa. So with that said, let's get right down to it. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some information to know if your plan is to purchase an existing business in order to pursue the E-2 visa. Right? So some of the first things to consider is what type of business is it and what type of purchase is it, right? So we've seen many different types of purchases over the years. Some of them are just purchasing assets, right? This company has 2 trucks and they have $30,000 worth of inventory that they never sold. And they're selling that, right? That's just an asset purchase. Sometimes that can be very simple. For sure, you're going to need a contract that lists all of the assets and the value of those assets, that type of thing, right? But also, then we have some more complicated businesses, or more, I should say, more inclusive businesses, right? That include everything. Maybe current customers, you're taking on the same employees, you're taking over a lease, those types of things. Usually, I won't say it's more complicated, but you definitely need to make sure that you have an attorney write up the purchase agreement. That's in any case, but particularly when you're taking over more of the totality of the business. Essentially, it's going to be exactly the same, except for you're the owner, not the seller anymore, right? That makes a big difference rather than just we're taking over the assets of the business. This person's gone. They had no employees. Maybe they only had themselves and their spouse or something. Or maybe they had a couple of employees that they're just quitting and they're moving on. You're just taking the assets. So you have to know kind of the difference of the different types of purchases. Now, could either work for the E-2 visa? Yes, of course. We've dealt with both, and both have been successful for other people. Obviously, every case is different, and we need to talk a little bit about yours, but either one is okay. Now, as far as buying a business that needs an appraisal, right? So the more inclusive the business purchase is, the more likely it is that we're going to need an appraisal. In the case where you have a couple of trucks and maybe a little bit of inventory, you might be able to just upload a couple of Kelley Blue books, right? That's a website or a company that gives you the general price range of a vehicle, and maybe they already have the old receipts from the inventory. This is what's left over, so it's worth $23,000, and you have that agreement. Here are the 2 trucks. One's worth $16,000, one's worth $35,000, and here's the inventory worth $22,000. That's what you're purchasing, and you move on. But when you have a business that's more inclusive, more comprehensive, you have employees, you have goodwill, right? You have customer lists, all of these things. Maybe you're taking over the real estate as well. It should be a more inclusive agreement. And you may need an appraisal for that, right? You may need to see all of the history of their tax returns and things like that. Here's what I will say. When you're buying a business, make sure that you hire an attorney on your behalf to do the due diligence, right? To make sure that this business is worth what they say it's worth, that they don't have any liens, that they don't have any things. That's really crucial before you come to us, right? Before you come to us, we can't do that for you. However, you do need an attorney to do that. You're also going to need an attorney to write a purchase agreement, regardless of if it's just a short list of assets or it's a more comprehensive, inclusive business, right? Will need a purchase agreement, and we always recommend that you have a local corporate attorney write the purchase agreement for you. Okay, so a local corporate attorney means someone within that state. Corporations law is different than immigration. Immigration is federal law, so all the states have the exact same law. With corporations, it's different between each state. So wherever you're buying the business, you should hire local corporate counsel there to do due diligence and to help you write the purchase agreement. Okay, we'll review the purchase agreement for immigration purposes before you sign it, but we can't write that contract for you. So keep that in mind, okay? Really, really important to make sure that you understand exactly what business you're buying, all right? So you really do need all of that background work. We help with the immigration, not the background work. Also, something I always tell all of my purchasers, if this is a business that requires a fixed location, right? You have a retail store, you have an actual gas station, you have something that's already set up and you really want to take over the lease. Make sure you speak to the landlord before you fall too in love with this business because the landlord has nothing to do, potentially, with the seller of this business, and they may or may not want a new tenant in that place, right? So you need to talk to the landlord and make sure that the landlord is willing to assign the lease to you so you can take it over. All right. So that's just a separate consideration whenever you're buying a business. Of course, there are more things to discuss. Fact specific, case specific, we'd love to do that. So, if you're planning on purchasing a business or some assets of a business in order to pursue the E-2 visa, give us a call anytime. We'd love to speak with you about your E-2 visa.